Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Astrology News Report, an alternate view of world events as seen through the lens of Vedic astrology, presented by yours truly, Ron Berger. Today is May 31st, 2020. In this segment, we'll take a look at what's happening in the zodiac for June 2020. But before we begin, a note to all viewers. This channel has moved to a paid subscription model. You are watching the once-a-month free public video. If you would like to have access to this month's weekly reports, stick around for the link at the end of this video to make your donation. Thanks. June begins with some holdovers from May. The triple retrograde conjunction of Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn is still in progress in the early degrees of sidereal Capricorn and will continue through the entire month. The problem with this combination is that Jupiter, the great benefic in Vedic astrology, the planet of prosperity, truth, wisdom, faith, and optimism, is having its expression cut off due to being retrograde and simultaneously sandwiched between two first-rate malefic planets, Saturn and Pluto, which are even more malefic now due to also being retrograde. Jupiter's significations of wealth and prosperity are certainly in trouble these days as the economic fallout from the coronavirus pandemic continues to cause devastation to businesses due to decreased economic activity and manifests in people's personal lives due to massive unemployment. Jupiter's signification of optimism and faith are similarly taking a hit as the pandemic continues to spread through human populations, causing tension and anxiety for everyone. At the end of June, there's a change. While they are exactly conjunct, retrograde Jupiter and retrograde Pluto simultaneously back into sidereal Sagittarius. This is an improvement because Jupiter will now be in its own sign, which makes the planet of prosperity and optimism stronger. But the improvement may not be obvious immediately due to Jupiter still being tightly conjunct retrograde Pluto, the planet of destruction, for yet another month. Meanwhile, Venus, the other main benefic planet in Vedic astrology, is also in trouble, especially at the beginning of the month. Venus is simultaneously retrograde, combust the Sun, and under pressure due to the square aspect of Mars. When Venus is retrograde, its significations are under review and get distorted. Relationships are reconsidered. Values are questioned. Agreements have to be reworked. When Venus is combust, it disappears from view. We can't see it, either as the morning star or the evening star. When we can't see the planet of guidance, we are without guidance. So, the planet of romance, pleasures, agreement, guidance, finance, and so forth is under a lot of pressure, and its significations continue to suffer in early June. After the first week of June, Venus emerges from combustion and moves out of range from the Mars square, and its significations improve somewhat. Finally, on June 24th, Venus ends its retrograde period and then slowly gets back to normal forward motion, and its significations begin to return to normal. Mars entered sidereal Aquarius back at the beginning of May. Mars is the planet of action and conflict. Aquarius is the sign of social revolution. Recent events in the United States have certainly rekindled the desire for social revolution. By the second week of June, Mars is getting to the end of Aquarius, where it runs into Neptune. The exact conjunction is on June 12th. Note that the moon is there too, which increases the potential for an event on that day. Mars plus Neptune combines the planet of action and force with the planet of fantasy, illusion, deception, and confusion. On the upside, Mars' action plus Neptune's idealism puts an emphasis on the social idealism that Aquarius is known for, which nonetheless might be unrealistic. But since Mars is a natural malefic planet, it's more likely we get Mars action and impatience combined with the downside of Neptune, deception. Therefore, actions taken during mid-June will tend to produce unintended outcomes. So, best to avoid the middle of June for initiating any important endeavors. On June 18th, Mars separates from Neptune when it leaves Aquarius and moves into sidereal Pisces. Mars transiting in Pisces isn't a bad thing. It's the planet of action in the sign of compassion and support, resulting in compassionate action. Pisces is a rather impressionable sign. It's the sign of hope and faith. With Mars in Pisces, we get acting on faith. Of course, that brings up the question of what or who are you putting your faith in? And here's something to consider when Mars transits into Pisces. This puts the planet of action, force, impatience, and combat in the 4th house of the USA Vedic astrology chart. The 4th house of a country's chart represents the lands of the country and the people who live on the land, in other words, the common people. The 4th house is also opposed to the 10th house, which is the house of the leader and the ruling party. So, at this point in time, the 4th house represents the Democrats. The Mars in Pisces transit will energize the 4th house of the people, excite the Democrats, as well as create more opposition to the leader and his party. Another thing, Mars, the planet of violence, transiting in Pisces, a water sign that represents oceans and flooding, afflicts the 4th house of the country's land. In other words, we will likely experience some destructive weather events. There's another notable astrology event in June. On the same day that Mars changes signs, June 18th, Mercury begins a retrograde period. The planet of rational thinking has been transiting in its own sign, Gemini, which boosts Mercury's significations, such as the ability to process data and information and the exchange of communications. But while it is retrograde, Mercury's talents will be harmed. Communication and understanding become distorted. Things get misunderstood, misinterpreted, and there's the general delay factor common to all retrograde planets. Mercury has a lot to do with our everyday operations. When it is retrograde, we tend to make more mistakes and experience more screw-ups than usual in our daily life. Mercury will be retrograde from June 18th until July 12th. After that, it slowly returns to normal forward motion, and the manifestation of its significations likewise return to normal. And another significant event for June is the solar eclipse, which happens on June 21st. This one will be an annular eclipse. In other words, the moon won't totally block out the sun, resulting in the so-called ring of fire effect. It's the sidereal zodiac, and the solar eclipse will happen at 6 degrees sidereal Gemini. In Vedic astrology, an eclipse is an indicator that the lunar month will be weak for producing results. Since this eclipse will be in Mercury's sign, and Mercury itself will have just gone retrograde, it's another indicator of things being off for the lunar month, and that we should, accordingly, trim our expectations. Eclipses are also a signal that change is coming. The ancients considered eclipses as portentous, in other words, signifying something bad coming in the near future. For astrology predictions, the eclipse produces a sort of pothole in the zodiac for the next several months. A planet transiting through that pothole, subsequent to the eclipse, gives us the timing for an eclipse-associated event. In this case, Venus will transit through the eclipse degree on August 7th, so we'll have to keep a watch on that date for a Venus-type event, in other words, something that affects devotion, relationships, or a change to an agreement, or finances, and so forth. Okay, so there's a brief look at planetary events in June 2020, and now a reminder, you have been watching Astrology News Report's once-a-month free public video. If you would like to see the next 4 weekly reports, donate $20 by clicking on or touching the donation card you see at the end of this video, which will take you to a donation page. If $20 for a month is too much for you, you can donate $10. The link to each week's report will be sent to you via your email. Here's a description of what's coming up in the June videos. June 7th, Joe Biden's chart and his chances for becoming president. June 14th, the Mercury Retrograde period and effects for each rising sign chart. June 21st, Mars transiting in Pisces and the effects for each rising sign chart. June 28th, a preview of planetary patterns for July 2020. You'll not want to miss out on all these great upcoming videos, so here's the link for your donation. Just click or touch the card, which will take you to the donation page. Thank you, and until next week.